Obviously, want to start with the Roger Stone indictment. CNN just shockingly, just they were lucky in guessing that the FBI would be at Roger Stone's house in Florida this morning. So CNN was there at 5 a.m. You would think the special counsel's office, the FBI tipped off CNN, but CNN, no. They deny being tipped off, but they just happened to be at the right place at the right time at 5 in the morning in Florida. But the FBI went in, military style, with guns ablazing, into Roger Stone's Florida home. I think they also checked his New York City home. They, obviously, I'm assuming, took, materials and whatever the hell they could get their hands on. I'll read you the New York Times story. The special counsel, Robert Mueller, revealed on Friday that the most direct link yet between the Trump campaign and WikiLeaks' parallel efforts to use Democratic Party material stolen by the Russians to damage the election campaign of Hillary Clinton. An indictment unsealed on Friday, the special counsel disclosed evidence that a top campaign official in 2016 dispatched Roger Stone, a longtime advisor to President Trump, to get information from WikiLeaks about the thousands of hacked Democratic emails. The effort began well after it was widely reported that Russian intelligence operatives were behind the theft, which was part of Moscow's broad campaign to sabotage the 2016 presidential election. The indictment makes no mention of whether Mr. Trump played a role in the coordination, though Mr. Mueller did leave a curious clue about how high in the campaign the effort reached. A senior campaign official was, quote, directed by an unnamed person to contact Mr. Stone about additional WikiLeaks releases that might damage the Clinton campaign, according to the court document. Mr. Stone was charged with 7 counts, including obstruction of an official proceeding, making false statements, and witness tampering. Mr. Mueller did not say that Mr. Stone's interactions with WikiLeaks were illegal, nor that the Trump campaign engaged in a criminal conspiracy with the organization. So, I mean, I don't want to make the Russiagate mob squad. I don't want to hurt their feelings or make their heads explode, but this is not exactly a straight line to something majorly sinister. A top campaign official dispatched Roger Stone, a longtime advisor to President Trump, to get information from WikiLeaks about the thousands of hacked Democratic emails. So, I mean, let's just fill in the blank, folks. Maybe it was Jared Kushner that said to Roger Stone, hey, can you get from WikiLeaks what, when are they releasing the next batch of emails? What does it concern? That kind of thing. Maybe it was Ivanka Trump. Maybe it was Paul Manafort. Maybe it was Kellyanne Conway. Who knows? A top campaign official. Somebody in the Trump campaign. They say a top campaign official. So, it could be any of the 3 I just mentioned. Jared Kushner, Kellyanne Conway, Paul Manafort, maybe Michael Cohen. Fill in the blank. Who Roger Stone was working on the outside. He wasn't technically a campaign advisor, but he was doing a lot of dirty work the entire campaign for Trump. So I don't understand why them pointing or trying to get Roger Stone to get dirt from WikiLeaks. Oh, Steve Bannon. Thank you, Joe. Brain fart there. I don't understand why the Trump campaign asking Roger Stone to find out dirt from WikiLeaks has anything to do with Russia. I mean, we have to remember the official and original charge of collusion. The official charge of collusion was that the Trump campaign knowingly worked with Russian government officials or liaisons to the Russian government to hack Hillary Clinton's campaign manager's email, to hack the DNC, and to then get those emails out through WikiLeaks. That was the original charge. You know how I know that? Because I was on the campaign trail hearing the Clinton campaign hysterically throw this shit out there on the wall. I was on the campaign trail hearing the media regurgitate this, regurgitate. So now, Roger Stone, who, by the way, is the worst of the worst, Roger Stone. If you ever watch Get Me Roger Stone on Netflix, Roger Stone is literally responsible for lobbying in Washington, D.C. He created the modern lobbying system. He also was instrumental in creating the first super PAC So Roger Stone, if he spends his time in jail, could care less. Good riddance. Although he's an entertaining guy, I'm not going to lie. He's fun to watch. But he's real scum of the earth. But a top campaign official instructing Roger Stone to try and get dirt from WikiLeaks, presumably, when are you releasing the next batch of emails? What are they about? These kinds of things. I'm sorry, I don't understand how that's some sinister collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. You would have to prove that the Trump campaign knew that those emails were hacked by the Russian government or played a part during the process of those emails being hacked or stolen or leaked, whatever you think is true. But I'm sorry, I mean, I know I'm going to be called a Kremlin operative and an agent of Russia, but I really don't see how Roger Stone being called by Trump campaign officials to try and get information from WikiLeaks. I don't understand what that has to do with Russia. I don't understand what that has to do with collusion. I don't understand how that proves that the Trump campaign was actively working with the Russian government to get those emails and give them to WikiLeaks. If the Trump campaign was knowingly working with Russia and WikiLeaks, why would the Trump campaign be asking Roger Stone to get dirt from WikiLeaks if they were actively working with them already? It doesn't make any sense. I was not live yesterday. Patrick, Jordan is an Assad Tui. Oh, boy. Wasn't that great. Maybe I'll do that on Sunday. Ugh, Barry Weiss. It's very sad that people like Barry Weiss have any job in journalism, much less with the New York Times. I don't see the smoking gun here. I see that they found that Roger Stone lied, probably to authorities, which least shocking thing ever. Unless Mueller has something that he's not showing yet. I mean, it's right here in the New York Times. The indictment makes no mention of Trump. Whether he played a role in the coordination, though Mueller left a clue. To who? A senior campaign official, quote, was directed by an unnamed person to contact Mr. Stone about additional WikiLeaks releases. Mr. Stone was charged with 7 accounts, including obstruction of an official proceeding, making false statements, and witness tampering. Mr. Mueller did not say that Mr. Stone's interactions with WikiLeaks were illegal, nor that the Trump campaign engaged in a criminal conspiracy with the organization. So, I mean, it's getting pretty close to the end of the line here. I mean, they got Manafort. Manafort's indictment has nothing to do with Russian collusion. They got Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen's indictment has to do with lying to Congress and Stormy Daniels and paying off Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal and some type of campaign finance violation. But that's not about Russian collusion. So you got Manafort, you got Cohen, Michael Flynn. His whole thing really has to do with after Trump was elected and the conversations he had with the Russian ambassador. And now Roger Stone, it says it right there. Mueller doesn't talk about conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. And WikiLeaks' response to this, WikiLeaks, I guess Julian Assange's attorney, Barry Pollock on the Stone indictment, the Dawn military-style arrest of Mr. Stone, a 66-year-old political consultant, was wholly unnecessary and served no purpose other than intimidation. The charges against Mr. Stone do not allege that Mr. Stone lied about his lack of contacts with Julian Assange, but rather about his contacts with others and about documents reflecting those communications. So I think this is important. Charges against Stone don't allege that Stone lied about his lack of contacts with Julian Assange, but rather about his contact with others and about documents reflecting those communications. The Office of Special Counsel has never spoken with Mr. Assange. So you could read that a whole lot of different ways. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't see this big Russian conspiracy collusion here. I just don't see it. If I did, I would say it. I have no skin in the game. I'm not paid by Russia. If I was paid by Russia, please pay me more so I don't have to go live all day, every Sunday, and work 24/7. But I don't see the big cabal here. Now, Maybe Mueller is waiting for the end. Maybe he's going to indict Julian Assange and actually has evidence that Julian Assange and the Russian government were working with the Trump campaign. It's possible, very possible. Frankly, if Robert Mueller had evidence that WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign and the Russian government were all involved in this big conspiracy, that would be pretty scandalous that he waited 2 years to let that out and to sound the alarm about that. I mean, if Robert Mueller has evidence that the President of the United States and his campaign worked with the Russian government to hack emails or leak them or whatever, and then leak them out, I mean, that would be one major bullet that you would think the FBI and the special prosecutor would not hold, because you very well, if that were true, could have a Russian asset sitting in the Oval Office. So I really believe if he had that at this point, it would have been out a long, long time ago. You could on one corner say Trump has done a lot of shady business dealings with Russian influence. I mean, he's been doing business with Russian oligarchs and the Russian mob dating back to the 1980s. I mean, if you know New York real estate, if you know how Donald Trump rose to fame, he did some shady stuff, and he has a lot of financial dependence on Russia. So that is true. He definitely has ties to Russia. But that's a whole entirely different thing than Trump and his campaign knowingly worked with the Russian government or liaisons that work for the Russian government to hack his opponent's emails or to, steal them somehow or whatever, and then give them to WikiLeaks to basically flood the internet the month before the election. That's two different things. I've always said, I'm pretty sure Mueller is going to find money laundering from the Trump organization, his real estate business, and Russia. That, I guarantee you, he'll find, because it's there. It exists. All you got to do is look up Trump and the Russian mafia, Trump and Russian oligarchs in the 1980s and 90s. It's there. But that's totally separate. So you could say Trump has a conflict when it comes to Russia, and maybe he's super friendly and, bows down to Putin because of his business dealings that are connected to Russia. That to me, was always more likely than there's some sinister plot going on here where the Trump campaign worked with the Russian government to hack emails. So here's what I say. If Mueller has something with Roger Stone, lying to the authorities, or impeding an investigation, or whatever, hey, I got no problem seeing Roger Stone behind bars. I mean, the guy's sleazy. He's the biggest sleaze out there. So I don't really care about Roger Stone. All I'm saying is for these Russiagate, it's like an army at this point online. Anything. I mean, basically, the Cold War has been reenacted. We need to start, the space race again, or whatever it was. And, we can't talk to people from Russia. We can't say anything nice about people from Russia. If we're not fire breathing and foaming at the mouth like Rachel Maddow, we are traitors. And I don't see any evidence for that. And frankly, as Ben Norton talked about in our interview, you could go watch that interview on this channel. I posted it this morning. You want to sit here and be foaming at the mouth about, oh my God, Russian trolls and the Russian government interfered in our so precious, holy democracy. We're literally leading a coup d'etat of the Venezuelan government as we speak. None of these Russiagate hysterical people who are so worried about our holy democracy, they don't give a damn that we are literally, we're not influencing somebody else's election. We're literally toppling an elected government in Venezuela. And by the way, you could say, oh, well, there was ballot stuffing and the election was rigged. They say that about Russia, too. That's what the United States says when they want to topple a dictator who's not so friendly to their business interests. Now, I mean, all you got to do is do the research. Maduro in Venezuela is no friend of humanity. He's a terrible, brutal dictator. But there's a lot of terrible, brutal dictators, and there's a lot of them that the United States does photo ops with in the White House, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. That was Barack Obama doing nice little photos with him, as well as President Trump. So we're not totally anti-dictator. We're not suddenly concerned about human rights. We're concerned about dictators and human rights when that dictator won't just hand over their oil to us. We're concerned about human rights and dictators when they won't just bend over for our business interests. And that's what's going on in Venezuela. That's what's going on in Venezuela right now. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. But I don't hear Rachel Maddow. And by the way, in fairness, I don't watch a whole lot of Rachel Maddow anymore. But I don't hear her. I don't hear Nancy Pelosi. I don't hear Chuck Schumer. I barely heard Bernie Sanders, if we're keeping it real. He made a statement, but it wasn't strong enough, if you ask me. I don't hear any of these people who have been foaming at the mouth about the Russian boogeyman and Russia and trolls and fake Facebook pages is stealing our non-existent democracy, because we don't live in a democracy. We live in an oligarchy. This isn't a democracy. So we're so worried about that, but oh boy. The United States leading a coup of Venezuela's twice elected leader. No comment on that.